Greetings, Hex and Counter players, and welcome to episode 2 of my look at Wargame Design Studios Panzer Campaigns Normandy 44 Gold Scenario number 30 Operation Overlord. I am playing as the Axis player against the AI. In episode 1 we had a look at a discussion about this scenario and some of its seen shortcomings. We also discussed how artillery could be employed as the German, and also we had a close look at disruption, morale and fatigue. So if you haven't seen episode 1, I recommend you jump over to that one and have a look at that. So in this turn we're at 0800 hours on the 6th of June. The Allies are just about to complete their turn and it will be our turn, our third turn. The map is displaying the area around St. Mere-Église, which is where the famous parachute drop was conducted, and they are the gold units. The Axis command report indicates that 6 units have been available to us. We still have a stack of units, of course, surrounded. So the numbers are generally reasonably unfavourable. The only thing that looks pretty good is the fact that we have a bunch of artillery units that have been stockpiled. To move things along a bit, I have already fired the German artillery. So what I would like you to have a close look at this time is the effect of our ground units on the beach hexes. So we can see what effect the beach 200% rule has. So when selecting targets, I always like having a shot at the engineers. Unfortunately my guys here are disrupted, so we'll just have to have a shot at the vehicles with the anti-tank gun. So a great result there with the fatigue. And you see there, an anti-tank gun is not that effective against infantry, and wouldn't you know it, our ATG gun's been disrupted. I think I've already moved the infantry forward to replace the infantry in that bunker. And as you can see from the location, it's almost impossible to reinforce or rotate the units. So we come across now to Omaha Beach. So no sense taking these guys on in the open, so we'll put our chaps in the trench hex. Omaha was infamous for the loss of American casualties during the landing. It's interesting to note that the villages and towns behind Omaha Beach were severely bombed and artillery, and in fact they lost more civilian casualties there than the Americans actually lost in doing the landing, which was very controversial. In fact, the whole pre-Normandy invasion was very controversial for the amount of French civilians that were killed in softening up various strategic points, crossroads, etc. in the Normandy area. But back to the game. So once again, vehicles with our anti-tank guns. So we knocked over one vehicle there. And once again, I like downgrading engineers if I can. See if we can find a target. No, we're going for this one here. Oh, the headquarters. Worth a go. So 8 men, it's not too bad. 15, and I think there was a 7 after it as well. So that's 22. So you can see that's extremely effective against these beach guys when other attacks at this stage of the campaign you're getting like 1 or 3. So even that one I think was 11 or 15. Nine, 15. Nice shot there. 11, 22. Wow, 39. So that was underlying the fact the effectiveness. So meanwhile on Gold Beach, you can see that the Brits have actually made some progress. They've managed to get off the beach onto a normal hex and push this unit out. No sense fighting against the British in an open field, so we've got no choice but to retreat through the minefield and go for the second layer of defence, which is this bunker formation. Juno. There seems to be far more undisrupted units over here in Gold and Juno as well, which causes some issues. So notice the German infantry unit there, its unit identification's in yellow, which means it's in a detached state, which limits its replacements. And once when units are in detached states, they grind down easier, obviously, than if they were supplied. Okay, pretty good result there for the German units. And sword. So in these first two videos we've had a look at artillery and ground attack units on beach hexes, and we'll come back to these as the issue develops. The next interesting thing for the German player is where to place the units that are being released to him. So we'll have a closer look at that. Also note our victory dialogue is pretty close to where we started. I think we started on about 2065, so we're holding our own as the German player. Just to the south of the paratroop drop is Carentan. I think this is pretty obviously a strategically very important location, given that it offers a land bridge between these two swamp marsh formations. So last turn we had the 6th parachute regiment released to us, and I've been moving them up to Carentan from the southwest. The commanding officer of the 6th Parachute Regiment is a Major von der Heid, who was a veteran of the Crete campaign, so he was pretty lucky to survive that one. But this unit proved to be a tough nut to crack for the Allies. The pink German division to the west of St. Mary Glees is the German 91st Luftland Division. They were commanded by Generalleutnant Wilhelm Falle. Unfortunately for him, on his way back from a command post exercise, he was ambushed by the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment and killed. In the 91st's area of operations, there are many ridge lines which we'll try and take advantage of, which gives the defender a 10% bonus or a 10% penalty to the attacker. At this stage I was going to show you the Allied Turn 5 or 1200 hours 6th of June 1944 turn. But having viewed the turn, I thought I would save you from the ordeal, and we'll move on to the Axis Turn 5, which is 1200 hours 6th of June 1944. We'll start the discussion at Utah Beach. Now, the Allies were a little bit fortunate with Utah Beach in that their landing was further south than originally planned due to their underestimation of the currents, and they actually landed in an area which was relatively lightly defended. Now, as you can see on the map there, we're only at midday and it looks like Utah Beach is breaking out. So this chap here is a survivor from earlier positions being overrun by the Allies, so at this stage we'll just withdraw him into the bunker hex, I think, and let him fight on from there. But with only 27 guys, he's not going to last terribly long time, you wouldn't think. It'll be interesting to see if this engineer unit goes straight across the swamp along that pathway, given that we have pretty limited defence there and they're isolated anyway, so it should be a walk in the park. The main thing to note about Utah is the plan is to link up eventually with Omaha Beach. And you'll notice that we have these two rivers, one being La Douve on the left, and on the right we have La Vire. So I'm sure my French teacher would be dying there, but there you go. And as you can see, between those two rivers it's all sand and beach, so they really are forced to go right around on the land. At Omaha Beach, not a lot has changed from the start of last turn. We're still bashing away, and at Gold and Sword you can see the British on the left and the Canadians on the right are making reasonably good progress, have units that are off the beach hexes and are starting to look to heading inland. And over here on Sword it's still a fight in progress, but you can see these guys are Canadians as well, I think, that they have started to make some holes in the German lines. So it looks like from here on in the issue for the Germans going to get far more difficult as these guys start crossing over the normal terrain. One of the themes I've banged on about for the German player in particular is detached units. Now if we use the W key or this shortcut button, you can see the German player has a stack of units which are detached. And we've discussed many of the issues 4 detached units. So obviously what you want to do is try and get them within range of their headquarters if you can, so that they're in supply. So how do you find the headquarters? Sometimes they're not in the immediate vicinity. You can use the headquarters button, which is L. In this case we're looking for Panzer Regiment 192. So there's a headquarters under this one here, which is Grenadier Regiment 736. So what if we want to find the headquarter unit for, in other words, Panzer Regiment 192? So we can go to View, Find Unit, which is Alt/space, or this menu item. So let's see if we can remember how to do it exactly. PZG period regiment .192. Search. Okay, so it comes up and here is the headquarters, and if we double click it, it will take us to the headquarters, and here it is here, Panzer Grenadier Regiment 192 headquarters. So the important thing for that is, if you use that search facility, make sure that the capitals and everything pretty well match up. So I've used this range feature, which is this round button here, which has the X maximum range, and this shows just what the range is for this headquarters. So if we go further north, you will see our unit we first highlighted is this one here. So he's well and truly outside that headquarters range, so he won't get any replacements or reinforcements. So that's a bit of an issue for us. So one of the questions you might ask is, okay, so with our headquarters unit down here, where was he? Oh, there he's just there. Panzer Regiment 192 is, when does he get released? Well, we can then go to units releases and look for Panzer Grenadier Regiment 192. Unfortunately there's no quick, oh there we go. So 1200 hours, 6th of June 1944. So in other words, he should be released on this turn. However, if you notice this part here of the dialogue has 2 question marks there, that is a percentage chance that the Axis Panzer Grenadier Regiment 192 headquarters will be released at 1200 hours on the 6th of June. So notice also these other units which have the star beside them. So let's, I'll just make that big and we'll double click a unit. So this unit here, notice these are fixed. These units were scheduled to be released by now. So what the star is saying, their initial opportunity for release has gone by. So I guess you could put that down to bad rolling of the dice, but that's all part of the randomness of the game for each of the players, I imagine, but particularly for the German player, as this shows the disorder, I suppose, of the German units in the Normandy area in this first day in particular of the invasion. So there you go. So if you have a unit which is detached, locate its headquarters, get the unit within headquarters range, and in this case if he's fixed, you can find out when the headquarters is released by using the release dialogue as I've just shown you. So the next question for us is, do we actually move our units at the moment into that headquarters range and get them reinforced and make them stronger? Or do we deploy them in the detached state, which means they have a certain amount of weakness? We can't use them too aggressively. We've got to use them with kid gloves if we can, against the might of the Allied forces. So the German player at this stage has got some important decisions to make regarding using those units which are detached. So that button there is quite useful, and also the headquarters button is useful when determining this, and of course the headquarters, the range button. Okay, so I'll now go through and have a look at all my units and see if I can get as many in range of their headquarters if possible, for those that have been released, and we'll come back then for the next turn, which will be 1600 hours. So I'll see how I go. So I might end this one here. I'll come back to you and we'll see how we are progressing. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.